Hi everyone. On 17th of October 2020, it would have been Peter Stringfellow's 80th birthday. And sadly, he passed away 2 years ago and never got to see it. But his son, Scott Stringfellow, has written about their wonderful relationship together. And it is the latest book from Unbound Publishing and Agent Fox Media that will be released on his birthday, October the 17th, 2020. So, hi, Scott. Let's hear all about this book.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's a bit of a labour of love, really. I kind of wrote it while Dad was in the hospital. I started it when he was in hospital, and because we started talking about things that we did in the past, little stories, so I started writing things down. Never really thinking about doing a book at all, but after he passed away, I realised that there's a possibility here this could actually help. So I started writing and putting all the stories down. And it's a bit of a hard read at the beginning because I do all the first chapter about when he got ill and went to hospital right up to when we lose him, and then I go back in the past and lighten it all up by going back to my earliest memories from when I was in Sheffield as a kid. I mean, a real toddler, and then right up to the present day, basically, because I also incorporate after losing him, couple of the last 2 years of coping with life without him. So it's a big human story, but at the same time, I realised that my life wasn't quite as normal as people. And that sounds terrible, but
that does come over in.
As people think, it was quite interesting in many areas, and the way Dad was and how he pushed our lives along. And
well, it does come over in the book, Scott, and that's why everybody should read it, because I think everyone has a perception of your dad that they know, which is the media perception. But this is a lovely story because this is a son's perception of his father, and it's lovely to know that not only was he a larger than life character for everybody else, but he was also a good father.
Well, yeah, he was a brilliant father, actually, but also it's a little bit of warts and all, because I talk about when we had fallouts. It's not all flowers and roses the whole time, because as you develop in a father-son relationship, there's things you don't always agree on. And my essence of the book, I had to be careful how I wrote it when I really got into it, because I realised there came a time when we weren't really together. Obviously, when I became an adult myself and was trying to get on with my life, I was trying to keep the parallels of us together. And then when we went our little ways, Dad was doing things in America, I was still racing, and you've got to try and keep the connection there. So I was talking about my racing to agree what I was doing, and I had to remember to keep bringing it back to what he was doing. So it was an interesting thing to do, to realise there was more of an actual connection than I even thought there was between me and my dad. Because he's very driven.
It's good to see that all the things that we're talking about are behind you, because there's a lovely picture there of you and your dad, but also I can see a couple of racing helmets and a checkered flag. And it must have been a time when, yes, there were times that he couldn't spend with you because the club and moving around the world would have taken up a lot of his time, but he still found time to support your racing career, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But when he could. But Dad's business life, you got to remember, I've always said the club is him, and he's the club, and it was very much like that all the time. He didn't play golf. He didn't have any other interests. He was just nightclubs. He was very supportive of motor racing, and he came to some races. In fact, I could count on maybe nearly two hands the amount of races he came to, which isn't a lot when you consider I've done well over 200 races in different formula. But that's the way it was. But it was a bit of a strange one because, as I mentioned in the book, my dad was supportive, but he wasn't the kind of guy that turned up at the race meeting and started throwing his weight around. He came to watch me, and it was fine. He let me get on with it. He didn't try and dictate anything or become too involved in the team. He realised that's my bit, and he just came to watch. And in some ways, that was brilliant because I didn't have any parental interference, let's say. But at the same time, I kind of lost a little bit of how much he wanted to be involved. So it's a little bit of swings and roundabouts, and he missed a lot of my firsts, like my first win, my championship wins. He wasn't there for those, which I've always felt has been quite hard. But it's the way life goes. Not everybody has it. I've seen other guys who race with sponsors and their families come along, whereas my father was the father and the sponsor, which I was very lucky to have. And in some ways, when I was still living at home and racing, I was going back to the sponsor. So I had to tell him what happened, and also he's my dad as well. So it's like I say, it swings and roundabouts. It's a different situation to say normal motor racing connections within the track.
We'll call it unique, and certainly you've captured that in the book. But it does sound like, on the positive side, that during this time when you were racing, you were allowed to be Scott Stringfellow and not just Peter Stringfellow's son. So it did allow you your own identity.
Yes, I did. But at the same time, when you turn up at race meetings, people already have a perception of who we are, what you're like. And they were all wrong most of the time, because, you know, when you're son of a nightclub owner and then son of a lap dancing club owner, then things kind of get very difficult for some people because they've already made up their mind what you're like.
Well, that's the importance of this book, because I think it will change a few people's perceptions of your dad, who just saw, you know, quite a one-dimensional character through our TV screens, and maybe in the club as well, where he had a certain persona that he needed to put forward. So I think it's really important that you have put this together to show him as a much more three-dimensional character, and as you say, with his faults as well.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, like you say, on media-wise, he gets seen as being the brash nightclub owner, and that's how he put across. He was very outgoing, very entertaining, and then outside of that, he was also a good family man. But also he was decide other things. But he was also a businessman, and that's the thing about his clubs. When he changed the girl thing, he can think about all sorts of perceptions of why he went that way. But he saw the opportunity to make more money. That's what you do in business. You're trying to make money to keep going, and eventually improve upon that. And it's exactly what he did. But behind it all the time, he had a different approach to what people thought he had, because, like you say, the media paints a certain picture, but he tended to let that all roll off him. He never bothered about how the media dealt with him. In fact, he often said, you know, it's all very well being talked about, but you know, say it's not great not being talked about either. So you've just got to go with the punches. He says even the bad things, and which of the good things can help you along the way.
Yeah, they say there's no such thing as bad publicity. So, Scott, this unique childhood that you had must have seen you meeting quite a few celebrities.
Yes, I guess I did. And that's the weird thing, because when I was younger, I just seen these people coming in. I recognised a couple of them, and at first you're a little bit starstruck, and then not, because they're just people who are in a different area and everybody just recognises them. There was an awful lot of people I met along the way, some incredibly well-known people who were all very nice people themselves, and you only saw them sporadically every now and then, just as like Alvin Stardust, and also met the Who. You know, Pete Townsend used to come in the club. Rod Stewart, he used to be in a band called The Faces that my dad used to have on at his clubs when he was in Sheffield in the early days. I mean, there were so many bands and celebrities that used to come to the clubs, and he became friends with, and kind of brought them into our fold to a certain degree. So sometimes I'd meet these people, other times I didn't have a clue who they were until much, much later. And I think, you knew him? So, yeah, he used to come in. He never used to make a big thing about any of it. These were all the people that came to his club, and he got on real well with them. There's one or two of them that made him, in fact, one that's not in the book, is the fact he got to meet Stephen Hawkins when he came in the club. And he loved that, because my dad was very well read and liked science and stuff, and it was pretty good. And it's entertaining in the fact that my dad said to Stephen, so what do you want to talk about? Are we going to talk about, evolution of the world, science, or the girls? And Stephen said, the girls. I'm not going to do the voice. I thought about it for a second.
Excellent. Well, that's a story that's not in the book, so that's a little bit of an extra for people. So, what age did you first get to go in the club?
Okay, my dad had in Leeds, Cinema Rockefellers, and I went on stage at the age of about 6 or 7, and I told a load of jokes. I had a dicky bow and a proper suit on, and I distinctly remember going into one of the clubs in his DJ box, and I told them all my best jokes. Now, God knows how that went down. And then from that, later on, I did used to go in on and off when we had the Millionaire Club in the Manchester days. I remember going in there when I was 14 or 15. It was a fancy dress ball for Halloween or something, and I went as a Japanese tourist. I've got that picture somewhere. I wish I could find it. But honestly, I've got a grey suit on. I've got a camera around my neck, a slick back my hair, and I had a little moustache. I was trying to look a bit Japanesey, and some girl took to me. I had no idea who she was. I've since remembered the picture, and I can see that she was definitely a lot older than me, that's for sure. And I don't think she knew I was 14 or 15. So.
Well, you're telling us a lot of things that aren't in the book, but there's a lot of good pictures in the book as well, aren't there? And a lot of pictures of things that you've done with your dad over the years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have to say, I'm telling you some stories that are not in the book, but there's a lot of stories that are in the book. And I suppose I'm trying not to give the whole game away and turn everything. But
we won't give the whole game away, but possibly we're setting ourselves up for a second book. Who knows? So, let's talk about the book itself. How long has it taken you to write?
It was on and off for about 2 years. I kid you not, it took that long because I went through writing a book after Dad, and I came to a stop because I found it very difficult. Like I say, the first chapter was really difficult to get through. Then after that, things moved along a little bit more progressively, and it was a lot better. And I started getting, and then I came to a stop. I can't remember exactly where. I think it was about Manchester-ish. I also researching my own stuff a little bit. Funny enough, I was using my dad's own book that he made as a little bit of research just for the dates more than anything. And that usually sparked off something else myself. So that was quite useful to me because I said, oh yeah, I remember about this. Yeah. And I'd come up with something. And even now, to this day, there are other stories that just pop up and I think, oh, I could have put that one in. But by the time I'd have done that, I think we would have had a book that was about this thick, and nobody would finish that on their holidays, would they? So,
Well,
there's still plenty there in the back of the head.
Yeah, it's a tremendous book, and obviously that's why I've agented it, and it's going to be published by the wonderful Unbound Publishing LLC in Idaho, along with my own company, Agent Fox, and we're really looking forward to launching it on October the 17th, which I think is fitting that is your dad's, or would have been your dad's 80th birthday. I think he'll be incredibly proud of you, Scott. We're kind of losing your broadband a little bit, so I think we're going to call it a day there. But we'll put the links on as to where people can buy this book that goes with this broadcast, and it really is a book that everyone should read, because there is a different side to your dad that you've brought out that everyone should know about. So, Scott, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to reading that book. So,
yes, thank you,
everyone. We've got this book coming out, as I said, on October the 17th, and I believe that Scott is going to be doing some other promotion around it. So please look out for that. But it is a very worthwhile, and Scott keeps appearing on the screen because he's making the noises that I told him not to. But
my daughter at home and got a broadband on.
Okay, so you can see that Scott is a better writer than he is at using Zoom. So listen, thank you everybody. Please buy the book. The links are with this broadcast, and from October the 17th, you will be able to purchase this book. Unbound Publishing LLC and Agent Fox Media are very proud to be publishing this book as one of the first 2 books that we've done together. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.